Hey everybody, this is Val. This is certainly not like the seventh or eighth time I've tried to shoot this video, but I gotta get it done because life has to go on. The cat has to be fed. So, all right, we're really gonna make it work this time. Discussing a topic now that maybe you can relate to, and it's about starting over, and it's also about redefining yourself. Right now, I'm in the process of starting over. Uh, I a couple weeks ago I was sort of laid off from a job that I had been at for a couple of years. Albeit it was a contract job, so there's always that possibility that it's gonna, go bye bye. But it was just like, still it felt like, oh well, this was a routine I had built, and now I'm kind of starting over. Now I'm looking for other job opportunities, and then it's like, what jobs do you want? What were the pros and cons of the job you had? Where do you want to go in the future? And so I'm asking myself that stuff, and so I'm starting over. And but more than that, I'm redefining myself because I'm like, even with like your resume title, like who are you? What are you looking for? And it's been clear to me. My life has kind of been my life had been pretty much chaotic, I would say, since like the late 2010s to the early 2020s, which I'm sure, especially like, after COVID, when COVID hit, that was just like the thing where it was just like ripping, anything that was kind of had like weak spots, like, life just goes poof like that. Everything just, you know, cats and dogs sleeping with each other, all sorts of stuff, this what's going on. Um, but that's really how my life had been since like 2018 to I would say 2023. And then, I was in a situation where I mean, frankly, where, I don't like a long-term relationship marriage was pretty much over. And I think kind of related to that, just had like profound financial calamity. And just even like in terms of like immediate, paying the rent, gonna get evicted calamity. And didn't have a really big support group. A lot of the friends that I had um, before this happened just sort of that. I mean, that was another thing. Like, it's sort of like I had like a relationship sort of, and I realized that like a whole bunch, like a whole peer group that I had been around, there were still a couple of like people that like I kept in touch with, but like that really just completely collapsed. Um, Family wise, like I love my family, and my mom helped me out a little bit, getting, the first security down on this apartment and stuff like that. But I didn't feel like I didn't feel across the board I had a lot of support. And I'm not blaming anybody or anything, but I didn't feel I had a lot of support, and it was incredibly scary time. And it was definitely a time where I think like guys go through this too as they get older, but I'm saying like as a woman, like, you're hitting a certain age and all this stuff happens, and it's sort of like, and you don't have kids, and you have a cat that needs to be fed. All the cliches, you're hitting all the cliche marks, like it's just, it's an original Netflix comedy series, it's all there, and you're just like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? And I think beyond that, I had lost touch of like, just to back up, I had been like a professional editor, like editor of just content editor. I had been a comic book editor, professional comic book editor. I've been a professional comic book writer. I've been on TV. I've been did all these things. Like I had a popular blog. I had all these things, and they just sort of all just sort of disintegrated. as we got to the late 2010s, and I just lost a sense of who I was, what I was standing for, what jobs I wanted, what I was good at. Like I remember just like losing all my self-esteem. And it's good I'm talking about this. I want to be honest about this, because definitely one of the things I've really discovered over the last 5, 7 years is that if you don't tell your story, people will kind of tell your story for you. And if you're just not on social media and you're just sort of you're not in anything, and you're just sort of like, well, you'll find out that people really are telling your story for you that may not have your best interests at heart. So it's sort of like I kind of want to tell my story. And I think I would say my career has always been wanting to tell my story, and I think more than that, to tell my story in a way that often involved humor, and often involved a sort of irreverent black humor type spin on it, and that sometimes involved a point of view that you might not necessarily expect. Those are all things that were kind of like I like to write about, um, sort of to express myself on social media and so on. And I just had forgotten all that. I had forgotten all that. I became Doogie Jones from Twin Peaks. You know what I'm talking about. And I got contacted by a contractor to just do straight content strategist UX work, which involves zero creativity. That's not a criticism of the job, and there is creative thinking in terms of problem solving. Do a lot of problem solving and pieces, and that these are all really good skills to have. I'm glad I practice those skills. Um, that had like zero to do with writing or even editing, like anything like that. I just felt I guess I felt so desperate to just make a living, which I'm sure, like, that's, yes, I'm sure I'm very unique. I'm the only person who has ever been in this position. But, like, I was so desperate, to just get myself out of the financial hole I was in. And so I was like, I need to make a practical decision, and I did. And, I put my head down and I worked, and in the future I may still do that, and that's fine. Um, but it's just strange how you get to a point in life where it's just you forget you forget what your talent is. You don't believe in your talent at all. You don't have self-esteem. You're just and also I think you get so used to a chaotic way of life, of always disasters. And and I would say like that is like the biggest, I wouldn't say it's a stumbling block. In some ways you could say it's almost like something that keeps me going, that that actually is like a the fire under my ass. It's like I think I've been was so traumatized with my experiences with just sort of financial collapse and just free falling, and gonna get kicked out of your home, everything like that. That from the moment I was laid off, I was like, I have to get another job immediately. I have to get another job immediately. I got to do everything, because if I don't do this, if I don't do that, if I don't do that, I'm going to, then it's just like, I'm going to be on the street dead. I'm going to be like, homeless. I'm going to be everything. I have to get everything done now. I have to do everything now. Like I have to just, everything like that. And some would say that's a good attitude to have. Actually, that's a survival attitude. And that's something a lot of people have, right? Or some people need. I'm trying to balance that. I'm trying to balance that with getting back to the heart of who I am, not redefining myself, but rather, getting past the part where I redefined myself several times to who am I really? What is it that I really want to do with the rest of my life? All that sort of stuff. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. And it's it's mind blowing, because you ask yourself, like, how did you get to this point? Like, and like, you look at your resume and you look at all the things that you've done, and you're like, because 10 years ago I wasn't just writing, editing on TV, different things, like things like that. I mean, I was also, like, I was career coaching other people, and I was specifically career coaching other people, like artists, like, or people who had those full-time, security jobs, but like wanted, to take their creative project and get that off the ground, and how to balance this stuff, and knowing when to switch over and spend more time with your creative stuff, and to ask yourself, what did you want to do? I was the coach for that. And I completely forgot about it. I forgot how to do it for myself. Um, and yeah, that's where I was, and that's kind of where I am. And I think certainly doing more videos um, is a part of my overall strategy of getting that groove back. Uh, I mean, the way I came up and really started was doing, like, a lot. I mean, that was like, the time of the wooden wheel. I was doing blogs and blog posts and all that sort of stuff, and that was the engine. And it's not the engine anymore. The blog posts are not the engine anymore. This is the engine. What you're watching here, this is the engine, and this is something where I have to, part of what I really have to focus on. Even if it's just a everyday ramble like this, or if it's reading a novel I wrote 20 years ago, or whatever it is, like, this has to be a part of that process of what I'm doing now. But like, do you are you finding yourself now starting over? Are you finding yourself now redefining yourself? Um have Do you think, are you finding yourself, like, you had lost your way somewhere in the process, and you're redefining of yourself is really just coming back to who you really were all along, and trying to find that magic. um and if you are going through it, to be honest, I've been through this several times in my life. I've been through this several times in my life. And I would say the last big time I went through this, I went through it, and I came out of it more successful than I had started. And I don't know 100% how I did that. I'm analyzing all that now, but it's possible. Um, and I would say the last advice I have for you in this video is, well, I'll tell you what I've been doing. How I've been moving forward with my life right now. In my life, there are two pillars. And one pillar is, like, practicality, practical stuff, right? Like, just sort of, because, like, I've learned over the years, you need to have practical stuff, like, just, work, savings, paperwork, medical, health, all this sort of stuff. Just, that's the first pillar, and that has to be addressed. That has to be addressed, and it's part of, just the being in this material world, right? Just this 3D material physical world. These are the things. That first pillar has to be addressed. But the second pillar is, who am I really? Why am I on this planet? What really makes my heart, sing? What are my talents? What do I love? That has to be the other pillar. That has to, and it has to be, and I'm sorry, it has to be as important as the practical pillar. These two things have to travel like best buddies side by side through the rest of my life. Um, and if I'm just focusing on the one practical pillar and I'm just pushing the other thing completely, like just, that's no good. If you're doing that, if you're doing that in your own life and it's like everything is that first practical pillar and it's just you're just the other side, you're just sort of like not addressing, not looking at, not living out, not trying, nothing, it's no good. It's not healthy. That's not a life. So you got to balance both of them. So that I would say right off the bat, in closing, that's how I'm moving forward. And, if you were in a situation like mine, that's how I would suggest you move forward. And, I wish you all the success in the world. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.